second one is be fallible. Say be fallible. There are a lot of colleagues of mine who are serving time in a state or federal prison because they don't know how to be fallible. Orange does not look good on everyone. And when I talk about being fallible, I mean being willing to take risks, but also being willing to accept the consequences of those risks. Some people are willing to take risks, but when they fail, they like to explain it away or blame it on someone else. It was this person's fault. It wasn't my decision. I didn't do it. I didn't know. I believe in taking responsibility. Number one, because usually it was my fault. But number two, because it makes me a stronger person. When you're willing to be fallible, then you're willing to open yourself up to experience, and there's a lot to learn from being wrong. I once, when I was a Sutherland attorney, I was a tax attorney, and we had this major client, and it was my first big case on my own. And I read this the tax bill over and over again, and I solved the problem that they hadn't been able to solve in a number of weeks. And I proudly took my memo to my partner, and they called for a meeting. And about an hour before the meeting, I'm reading through it again, and I realized I missed a word that said the exact opposite of everything I told them. And we were about to convince our biggest client to spend millions of dollars on something that they were going to get into a lot of trouble for. And so I sat in my office and hoped that God would teleport me to heaven at that moment. And when that did not happen, I screwed my courage to the sticking place, thought about the fact that I was going to lose my house and my car when I lost my job, and walked down to the partner's office, and I said, Jim, I reread that provision in the law, and I read this case that I thought did what I thought we could do, and it turns out it's the exact opposite of what I thought. And he looked at me as though my parents made a horrible mistake having me, and he questioned my intelligence and my presence on this earth, and I was like, he said, well, how did you miss that? And I said, I don't know. I read it and I reread it, and I think I just wanted to find an answer for you. And he's like, well, we have a meeting in 10 minutes. I said, that's why I came to tell you. I figured maybe we could just cancel the meeting. And he was like, the CEO is coming. And I said, well, I will, what do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to tell them what you did. And I was like, okay. And so I went to the meeting and I explained that I'd misread the law. I explained that I was a terrible lawyer and a horrible human being, and that flogging could be done at 5 p.m. But the client looked at me, and she said that she understood. And she said, okay, I appreciate you letting us know. And we then tried to figure out something else, and I've never worked as hard on solving that problem as I've ever worked on anything in my life. Because two things happened. She was fair with me, but that sense of fallibility drove me to be better. And believe me, I don't make mistakes like that anymore. Being willing to be fallible creates a space for us to learn to be more. When you have to admit that you're wrong, you have to open yourself up to a lot of emotions that don't feel good in the moment, but they change who you are in the next minute. Because I'm sure she was kind to me because someone was once kind to her. And instead of treating me as though I were a terrible person, she treated me like I was a young lawyer learning to do my job. And as young women in this room in particular, you're going to make mistakes. And there's going to be a deep and abiding fear in the back of your mind that if you say you were wrong, you're going to lose everything you've ever wanted. I promise you that's not going to happen. But what will happen is, one, you're going to feel better because you admitted that you made a mistake. Number two, you'll stay out of prison because too often people with power who lie end up going to jail. But number three, your soul will be better. And it's an amazing feeling when you know that you can make mistakes, because when you know you can make mistakes, you take more risks. You try more things. You open spaces for opportunity, and you let people invite you in.